Hello students, today we will be discussing about cost accounting. First day we have discussed the basics of costing, cost accounting and cost or definitions we have explained. Now today we will be starting for the next part for your BCom classes, that is elements of cost. You see that costs are basically three components are there. One is material cost, another is labor cost, another is other expenses, which are material cost against divided into two parts. One is direct material, another is indirect material. Number two, expense labor also two parts, direct and indirect labor. Similarly, expenses also direct and indirect expenses. Now we will be going in detail all these cases. So classifications of costs. You see that classification of costs can be made based upon on the basis of elements. Just we have explained earlier, that is direct material, direct labor, direct expenses and overheads. That is the elements basis. On the basis of functions, production expenses, office expenses, selling expenses and distribution expenses. Next point is that on the basis of behavior, that is variable expenses, fixed expenses and semi-variable expenses. Behavior means nature. On the basis of controllability, whether it can be controlled or uncontrolled, that is controllable and uncontrollable. On the basis of time, that is historical cost and predetermined cost. So these are the different types of cost, classification of cost that will be required. So next point we will be going for these things. Material, you see that we have explained that two types of materials are there. One is your direct material, another is your indirect material. Which are those direct material? Cost which is can be conveniently identified and allocated to cost units straightway, which can be conveniently and directly identified and allocated to cost example. Which are those direct material? That is material specifically purchased for a particularly job, order or processes. Suppose for any if you go some packaging of product, your granules you purchase, that is your raw material from where we can produce the pouch. Similarly, only direct material cannot be, you cannot make any products. Along with such direct material, you have to utilize the indirect material also. Indirect material cost cannot be conveniently allocated. You see that, you understand that name itself indirect. It cannot be conveniently allocated, but can be apportioned or absorbed. That means distributed some percentage to different departments or units or cost center. जैसे आपको देख लेते, जैसे प्रोडक्शन प्रोसेस में रॉ मटेरियल का साथ साथ डायरेक्ट मटेरियल के साथ साथ यू नीड दैट लुब्रिकेटिंग ऑयल, फ्यूल, कॉटन वेस्ट एटसेट्रा. दोज आर द materials which are called the indirect material. Now we will be coming for your production cost, that is second important component, that is labor cost. Labor cost is the cost of, which are those labor cost? Is the remuneration, wages, salary, bonus, etc. paid or payable to the employees of an undertaking. You see that labor cost directly who are attached to the production process, those are called the labor. Then direct labor, here also two types, direct labor, indirect labor. Direct labor is that labor which can be conveniently identified and allocated to cost units. Straightway those who are involved in the production process, attached with the machinery, those are the labor which are directly engaged in the productive job or processes. Straightway machine involved, production process involved, those are called the direct labor. Next we will be discussing for that indirect labor. Which are those indirect labor? Those are not directly related, but they are some way involved in the production process. Is the cost of labor not directly engaged in the production of processes, but engaged to assist? You see that assist or help, production process helping group, those are the thing. जैसे स्टोर कीपर होता है, इंस्पेक्टर होता है. देखो वो जो लेबर है वो डायरेक्टली मशीन चलाते हैं, बट दीज आर द पीपल. जो स्टोर कीपर होता है वो स्टोर डिपार्टमेंट में जो स्टॉक मटेरियल रहता है उनका कंट्रोलर रहता है. इंस्पेक्टर्स जो वेरिफिकेशंस करते, चेकिंग करते, दोज who can assist your production process but not directly related to your production functions. Now we will be going for overhead. You see that overhead means over and above any expenses are those which are incurred in connection. Factory overheads means some expense or expenditure, those expenses which are incurred in connection with the manufacturing operation. You see that factory overheads particularly relates to the manufacturing operation, but which cannot be identified analogous to cost units or job or process. You see that just like the direct material, direct expenses, you cannot identify to the your job or unit or processes. Like this, your example, power, factory rent, salary of works manager. You see that power statewide it is not there. You see power different areas it will be utilized. Factory rent similarly also, salary of works manager. So these are those associated expenditure relates to your productions in connection with the manufacturing operations. We are talking about no in connection with the manufacturing operation. So these are called factory overheads. That means over and above that expenses. Now we are coming to the next point. These are called the office expenses. Which are office expenses? Office expenses are incurred formulating the management policies, planning and controlling the functions, directing and motivating the personnel of an organization for the attainment objective. You see that whenever your production process will be there, one office should be there. So that office supports that all the departments, that is policy making, planning, controlling, etc., directing, motivation of personnel for organization's goals. So this is the support related expenses. You see that without office support you cannot do your these things. Suppose if your administration department is not there, if your personal department is not there, we will give the staff members to your these things. If your accounts personnel is not there, if your storekeeper is not there, we will do some other work for that. So all these related works they will be doing. So which are those office expenses? There is office salaries, administration expenses, rent, repairs, depreciation of office building. So these are the expenses all relates to the office expenses, right? Now we will be going for this thing, selling expenses. So selling expense भी जरूरत होता है, because without selling expenses you cannot promote your sales and retain your consumers. So selling expenses, which are those selling expenses? Selling expenses are those expenses which are incurred to promote sales and to retain consumers. This is the cost which are incurred to create and stimulate demand for the products are known as selling expenses. So this is the cost incurred to create and stimulate demand. You see that if you are in that organization, if you have a continuous process you are selling expenses, if some demand is there, demand you have to retain for a long time. So always you promote sales and retain consumers. So which are those things? Your advertisement expenses will be there, salesman salaries will be there, commissions you have to give your sales personnel, commission you have to give, you have to charge bad debt also. If anything not recovered, that is also an expenditure. Now distribution expenses, you see that selling and distribution under one broad head, but you see that selling distribution expenses is different from the selling expenses. So distribution is the expenses which are incurred to distribute the goods which are manufactured by the concern. जैसे your production is one point, your distribution point is another point. Suppose your factory may be outside the state, you cannot directly after placing the order you cannot bring the material from there. So you should have one warehouse, one godown you have to keep it there, and you have to distribute from that places. That is driver, delivery vans expenses, carriage outward, packing charges expenses. So from that distribution point, any your delivery van should be required, your carry outward from your dealer or distributor, or your that local persons who are delivering the material to them, you have to distribute to them. So for those purposes these expenses are required. So these are the expenses. We have explained all those things, because you see that your production cost includes all those costs, right from your material, labor, overhead, expenses, overhead, all those things. Now will be little bit other areas will be discussed, that is fixed cost. Which are those fixed costs? You see, cost are two types of cost. One is variable, one is fixed cost. Which are fixed cost? Fixed cost is those costs which are constant with the install capacity, irrespective of the volume change. You see that fixed cost 1 inch car, it will never be affected by your volume of productions. You see that suppose one machinery you have installed, up to that your install capacity, whatever cost will be there, it will be fixed. Suppose your office rent you are paying for a whole year, it will be fixed, it will not be related to your production purposes. जैसे we are example giving rent of the building, factory manager salary monthly basis, insurance also annual basis you are giving, other administration expenses you are giving those things. So these are all fixed cost. Now we'll be coming to your variable cost. So by name itself इसमें आपको पता चल रहा है जो it varies. Variable cost is the cost which vary according to the volume of production. Suppose if you produce 10,000 units, if you produce 10,001 unit, your addition 1 unit it will change. Suppose it is a proportionate, directly proportionate to the volume of productions. If you produce 5,000, some cost will be there. If you 10,000 produce, it will be double the cost will be there. If you produce 15,000, it will be triple the cost. So it will be directly proportionate to the vary with your production cost. Now we'll be coming for your semi variable or semi fixed cost. By name itself आपको पता हो रहा है जो semi fixed और semi variable means partly variable, partly fixed, partly fixed, partly variable. So both are interchangeable. Semi variable means semi fixed. Semi fixed cost is one which is partly fixed and partly variable. It is also known as semi variable. So both are interchangeable. Example here, telephone expenses, electricity expenses. आपने कभी टेलीफोन बिल देखा क्या? टेलीफोन बिल में आप देखेंगे जो है फिक्स्ड चार्जेस होगा. आपको जो रेंट होगा ना, मीटर रेंट जो है वो फिक्स्ड रहेगा, एंड डिपेंडिंग अपॉन योर number of units you consume, accordingly your that is the variable. Similarly for electricity charges also will be there. So one portion will be fixed and another portion will be variable. So these are the things we can discuss for that. So today we have these things. We can conclude that this is the nature of cost. If you go for subsequent stages, your production cost, material, labor, overhead, then your factory overhead, office expenses, selling and distribution expenses, taking together your cost of sales will come. So today we are concluding here, because if you calculate your production, cost of productions or cost of sales, these are all these costs involved will be there. So for that purpose, you should know the basics of understanding of the nature of the cost, their applicability. So we'll be concluding the video here. If you like my channel and my discussion, if you think that some material is there, please do subscribe to my channel, so that I will be highly motivated to bring more some videos for your exam purposes. I can ensure that your exam purposes, you need not go to any tutor. If you read and if you attached with these things, your concept will be definitely will clear and you will be getting the good marks. One more thing is there, my description box link will be there. If you want to download, you can download also. So we are concluding the videos here. Have a good day.